My parents ignored me my entire life, but at my sister's celebration, I did something that left them speechless. I always knew life wasn't fair, but nothing drove that point home like watching my sister glide through med school debt-free while I was drowning in student loans. Sophia and I had always been compared, ever since we were kids. The smart one, the ambitious one, the responsible one, it depended on the day. But one thing was clear, my parents saw Sophia as an investment and me as an afterthought. My father had his own logic for it. You're a man, Ethan. You'll figure it out. Translation, we're covering everything for your sister, and you'll fend for yourself. Don't get me wrong, I wasn't bitter, or at least I convinced myself I wasn't. But when you spend years watching one sibling showered with support, tutors, gifts, connections, while you scrape by with side jobs and scholarships, something inside you hardens. Graduation came and went, and I should have felt proud. I was going to be a doctor, I had done it on my own. But instead of celebrating, all I could think about was the mountain of debt I had to climb while Sophia was handed a golden parachute. To make matters worse, our parents were throwing a massive party for her, like she had single-handedly cured cancer. I wasn't even sure why I was invited, maybe as a prop. Look, here's our other child, also a doctor, but let's get back to talking about Sophia. I was debating whether to show up when my phone buzzed. A text from my grandmother, Margaret, proud of you, Ethan. Call me when you can. Unlike my parents, Grandma never played favorites. She was the only one who made me feel worth something, even when I was a scrappy kid mowing lawns to save up for things Sophia got handed. If she wanted to talk, I'd make time. I was about to call her when another notification popped up. Dr. Thomas Caldwell, need to speak with you. Urgent. I frowned but didn't call. Instead, I tucked my phone in my pocket, grabbed a soda from the fridge, and popped the tab as I paced my tiny apartment. The kitchen light flickered again, probably another issue with the cheap wiring. I made a mental note to call the landlord, knowing I'd never get around to it. The apartment was quiet except for distant sirens a few blocks away and the occasional thump of my upstairs neighbor's questionable taste in music. I stared out the window at the street below, watching cars roll by, each carrying someone with a plan, somewhere to be, something to do. Meanwhile, I was stuck in limbo, wondering why I was considering attending a party that would only remind me of every unfair hand I'd been dealt. I dropped onto the couch, running a hand through my hair, when my phone buzzed again. Grandma. I sighed and called her. Ethan, she answered immediately, I was starting to think you forgot about me. Never, Grandma. Just a long day. She hummed knowingly. I bet. Your sister's party tomorrow, yeah? A pause. Yeah. And you're going? I hesitated. I don't know yet. She let out a sigh that carried all the disappointment in the world. You do know you have a choice, right? You always have a choice. I frowned. It's not that simple. Isn't it? She countered. Because from where I'm sitting, it sounds straightforward. You can keep playing along with their game, or you can start thinking about what's best for you. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling. The paint was chipped in one corner, a reminder of how I'd accidentally knocked a hole in it while trying to kill a spider months ago, the kind of thing I never fixed, like a lot in my life. Grandma's voice softened. I know you, Ethan. You've always put your head down and worked hard. But at some point, you have to ask yourself, when is it your turn? I stayed silent, fingers tightening around my phone. My mind flashed back to every holiday, every family gathering, every moment where I played the role of the other child while Sophia got the spotlight. And now I was expected to stand there and clap for her one more time while my struggles were ignored. Just think about it, Grandma said, softer now. And whatever you decide, know I'm proud of you. I swallowed hard. Thanks, Grandma. We said our goodbyes, and I set my phone down, staring at it like it might give me an answer. Then I grabbed my keys and headed out. I needed a drive, air, and, more than anything, to figure out what I was going to do next. Driving through quiet streets that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that no matter what I did, I'd always be second place in my family. It had been that way since I was a kid. Sophia was the golden child from the start, the one who got fancy dolls, designer clothes, ballet lessons. I got whatever hand-me-downs were decent enough to wear. If she wanted something, it magically appeared. If I wanted something, I had to figure it out myself. I learned young that asking was pointless. My parents always had the same response, we don't have extra money for that. But somehow, there was always extra money for Sophia. It became clear when I was 7. One afternoon, my parents sat me down in the living room and told me I'd be moving in with Grandma Margaret. They sugarcoated it, saying Grandma was getting older and needed company, that she had a big house with a backyard and I'd love it there. Even at 7, I wasn't stupid. I saw how they avoided my eyes, how they kept glancing at each other, like they were waiting for me to cry or throw a fit. But I didn't. I nodded and packed my things. The truth was, I already felt like an outsider in my own home. I could disappear for hours, and no one would notice. My parents revolved around Sophia, and I was just there. So when they told me I was moving out, I knew what it meant. I wasn't needed, I was taking up space. But Grandma? She wanted me. Moving in with her was like stepping into a new world. She lived in a cozy old house on the outskirts of town, the kind with creaky floors and walls lined with bookshelves. It smelled like cinnamon and fresh-baked bread, and she had an old orange tabby cat named Rufus who acted like he owned the place. For the first time, I had someone who cared about me. She taught me how to ride a bike in her driveway, let me help in the garden, though I mostly dug holes, and showed up to every school event, every little league game, every recital, even the ones I begged to skip. She never missed a thing. She taught me that no matter how unfair life was, quitting wasn't an option. We had a routine. Saturday mornings meant pancakes, always stacked high with too much syrup. Sundays were movie nights, watching old classics while she told stories about her youth. She had a way of making everything feel okay, even when it wasn't. By high school, I'd learned to keep my expectations low with my parents. They rarely called, and when they did, it was usually about Sophia, how well she was doing, how proud they were. They'd ask about my grades as an afterthought, then move on. I worked after school, saved what I could, and planned my own future. Senior year, college applications came. Sophia had gotten into her dream school, and my parents threw a dinner party to celebrate, gushing about her bright future. When I got accepted into the same university, I told them over breakfast. My dad barely looked up from his coffee, nodded, and said, "That's great, but you know we can't afford to pay for 2 kids." Just like that, I knew I was on my own. I told myself I expected it, that it didn't matter. But later that night, I sat in my room, staring at my acceptance letter, feeling like someone had punched me in the gut. Then Grandma knocked on my door, sat beside me on the bed, took my hand, and said, "You're going to that school." I tried to argue, to tell her I couldn't afford it, but she shook her head and pulled out a small velvet box. Inside was a beautiful old pocket watch, my grandfather's. "It's been in our family for over 100 years, she said, her voice thick with emotion. She was selling it, along with some antique jewelry and rare collectibles, to pay for my first year of school. I told her I couldn't let her do that, that it wasn't fair. She smiled, tucked my hair behind my ear like she did when I was a kid, and said, "Fair's got nothing to do with it." She was right. It never did. That first year of college, I worked as much as I could, bartending, tutoring, anything to put money in my pocket. I didn't want Grandma to sell anything else. I took out loans, stretched every dollar, and made it work. Meanwhile, my parents furnished Sophia's off-campus apartment, ensuring she had the best of everything. I never got a care package, a check in the mail, or even a "How are you holding up" text. But every Sunday night, without fail, Grandma called, and for a little while, everything felt okay. As I sat in my car that night, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white, I realized how different my life would have been without her. She was the only one who believed in me, the only one who sacrificed for me, the only one who loved me the way a family was supposed to. And I was the only one in our family who never got a damn thing in return. I sat there for what felt like an hour, staring at my phone, the screen still glowing with Grandma's call. My fingers hovered over the screen before tapping the missed message from Dr. Caldwell, "Need to speak with you. Urgent." I took a deep breath and hit call. The phone barely rang before he picked up. "Ethan," he said, his voice sharper than usual, "glad you called. I have news. Big news." My stomach twisted. Dr. Caldwell wasn't one for exaggeration. If he said it was big, it was big. "You got it," he said. "The Rivers Fellowship." For a second, I thought I misheard him. The Rivers Fellowship, the one only a handful of med students in the country received each year, the one with a research grant, a direct path to top hospitals, and, most importantly, full debt forgiveness. I gripped the steering wheel, my pulse hammering in my ears. It didn't make sense. People spent years chasing this, networking, pulling every string, and somehow I got it. Caldwell must have sensed my disbelief because he chuckled. "I knew you'd react like this, but it's real. You earned it, Ethan." My mind raced. I thought about the nights in the research lab, the hours of unpaid work, the exhaustion so deep I nearly fell asleep standing up. I thought about how Sophia spent those nights partying in Cabo or skiing in Aspen, all expenses paid by our parents. And yet, here I was. Caldwell's voice snapped me back. "There's more. Tomorrow night, at your sister's event, key members of the fellowship committee will be there. The director of the program is making an appearance. This is an opportunity to make an impression before things go public." I rubbed my temple, feeling a dull ache form. At Sophia's party. Of course. It couldn't be a quiet email or a university meeting. No, it had to be in front of my family, at a party for her success. I could imagine my parents' faces, the forced smiles, the polite applause that would barely last 3 seconds before they redirected the conversation to Sophia. And Sophia? She'd be furious, not openly, she was too practiced at playing the perfect daughter, but she'd remind me this was her night. I leaned back, staring at the cracked ceiling of my car. Of course it's at Sophia's event, I muttered. Caldwell sighed. I know it's not ideal, but think about it. It's a room full of the right people, the kind who can set up the next 10 years of your career. We announce it there, in front of them. It solidifies your place. I ran a hand through my hair, thinking of every time Sophia effortlessly stole the spotlight, every birthday where her gift was twice the size of mine, every holiday when she got the latest gadgets while I got socks, every time my achievements were a footnote in the saga of Sophia Walker, the family's golden child. Now, I had a chance to change that. I took a deep breath, my grip on the steering wheel loosening. The weight of student debt that had hung over me for years felt lighter. This wasn't just an award, it was my way out, my way forward. But was I ready for the fallout? I turned on the radio to distract myself. An old rock song from high school played, filling the silence, my mind still spinning. I thought about calling Grandma back, but I knew what she'd say: take the opportunity, stop worrying about what my parents think, step into your own life. She was right. I checked the time. It was late, but not too late for drive-through coffee. I needed to clear my head before making a decision I couldn't take back. I pulled into a 24-hour diner, a relic with flickering neon signs and a parking lot filled with long-haul truckers and exhausted night shift workers. The kind of place where the coffee was strong, the pancakes were cheap, and no one asked questions. I slid into a booth, ordered black coffee, and stared at my phone. One text from Caldwell, one from Grandma, and one from my parents: don't be late tomorrow. No, looking forward to seeing you. No, how are you? Just a reminder not to mess up Sophia's big moment. The waitress dropped off my coffee with a knowing smile, like she'd seen 100 guys in this spot, staring at their problems at 2 a.m. Rough night, she asked. I let out a half laugh. Something like that. She nodded, topped off my coffee without asking, and walked away. Maybe I should have stayed in that booth forever, just me, my coffee, and the promise of a debt-free life on the other side of tomorrow. But I knew the answer. Tomorrow, I was going to that party, and for the first time, I wasn't going to stand in Sophia's shadow. I was about to step into the spotlight, and I had no idea how my family would take it. Walking into the restaurant, I knew what kind of night this would be. The place was high-end, the kind where they charge you for breathing too long. Crystal chandeliers, white tablecloths, a wine list like a college thesis, the kind of place my parents loved to show off in. Everywhere I looked, there were banners, framed photos, and floral centerpieces, all with one thing in common: Sophia's name. Congratulations, Dr. Sophia Walker. Her name was on everything: napkins, party favors, even the ridiculous cake piped in gold lettering, like she'd won a Nobel Prize. I scanned the room for anything acknowledging that I'd also graduated from med school. Nothing. No mention, no second banner, no quiet, "Oh, and Ethan too." Just Sophia, the only Walker child who apparently mattered. I wasn't surprised, just tired. A server offered champagne. I took a glass and moved to the edge of the room, where I could observe without engaging. Across the room, my parents were holding court with guests, laughing and nodding in sync with whatever impressive thing Sophia was saying. She was in the middle of some exaggerated story, probably about how tough med school was, conveniently leaving out the private tutors, fully covered tuition, and never working a shift in her life. Then I saw him, Dr. Stephen Graham, the director of the program Sophia had applied to, the real reason for this party. Sure, my parents would say it was to celebrate her, but we all knew it was about impressing him, ensuring her residency spot. I exhaled slowly, rolling my shoulders to shake off the tension. My parents had played this game for years, networking, schmoozing, giving Sophia every advantage. The waitstaff moved smoothly between tables, balancing silver trays like a Broadway routine. Conversations hummed, polite laughter, self-congratulation. I caught a glimpse of Grandma at the back, sitting alone at a small round table. She wasn't talking to anyone, just watching. I made my way over, dodging guests who barely noticed me. Grandma's eyes lit up when she saw me. She reached for my hand and squeezed. "I always knew you'd get there on your own," she said softly. "I just wish they'd see it too." The warmth in her voice almost made me forget where I was. Almost. But then my mother appeared, wearing her too-wide party smile. "There you are, Ethan. Can you do me a favor? Some tables don't have menus. Double-check, will you?" I stared at her. I wasn't a guest at this party. I was the help, the extra, the background character in the Sophia Walker show. Grandma held my hand, giving a small squeeze, like she knew what I was thinking. I nodded slowly, set down my untouched champagne, and turned away. For the last time, I was going to play along. After tonight, never again. I took my time weaving through the room, pretending to check the neatly folded menus at every place setting. I overheard snippets, doctors discussing research, someone bragging about their Hamptons summer home, another debating private school tennis programs for their 5-year-old. This was my parents' world, where appearances mattered more than people. A waiter passed with appetizers, and I snagged one, a tiny, overpriced puff pastry with something vaguely crab-like but mostly air. I spotted Sophia near the center, effortlessly holding court, smiling like she belonged in a magazine. She was dressed in a designer gown, standing in a perfect spotlight while people lined up to congratulate her. Then, as if she had a sixth sense, she turned and locked eyes with me. Her smile faltered for half a second, just long enough for me to see it, the flicker of recognition, the unspoken reminder that this was her night, and I was just a guest. She recovered quickly, flashing her signature grin before turning back to her audience. I moved to the bar, needing something stronger than champagne. A man in a tailored suit stood beside me, ordering a whiskey neat. He glanced over, gave a polite nod. "You must be Sophia's brother," he said, confirming I existed. I nodded. "Yeah, Ethan. Stephen Graham," he said, extending a hand. "Your parents speak highly of Sophia." Of course they did. I shook his hand, keeping my face neutral. "Yeah, she's done well." He took a sip, studying me. "And you? I hear you graduated med school too." It was the first time anyone here acknowledged it. I nodded. "Yeah, I did." "Impressive," he said. "What's next for you?" I hesitated, glancing at my parents, still wrapped up in Sophia's latest triumph. For the first time, I had an answer, but tonight wasn't the night to say it. I was still at the bar, swirling the last drops of my drink, when Sophia walked toward me. She moved with her usual confidence, the kind that made people step aside without realizing it. I braced myself, expecting the usual condescending smile, the fake warmth of family events. But her expression was different. She stopped a few feet away, glancing around to ensure no one was listening, then said, in a low voice, "This isn't fair." I blinked, unsure I'd heard her right. Sophia didn't do self-awareness. She didn't acknowledge imbalances, especially when they worked in her favor. But she wasn't done. "We graduated together," she continued, "same degree, same school, and yet this whole thing, it's like I'm the only one who matters." I studied her, trying to figure out if this was a setup, a joke, a way to soften the reminder that this was her night. But there was no smugness, no agenda, just something like regret. "Why are you telling me this?" The words came out before I could stop them, not because I didn't appreciate it, but because, where was this coming from? She hesitated, then let out a breath, like she'd been holding it all night. "Because it's wrong. I never saw it before, not like this, but standing up there, listening to everyone talk like I did this on my own, it feels off." I wanted to believe her, but years of experience told me this wasn't how our family worked. People didn't suddenly realize they'd been the favorite child. Before I could respond, a waiter passed with a tray of hors d'oeuvres. Sophia grabbed a canapé without thinking, popping it into her mouth while staring at the crowd. "These things taste like cardboard," she muttered, shaking her head. That made me pause. Sophia never complained about these events, she fit into them like she was made for them. But now she looked like she was seeing it all for the first time. Before I could say anything, another voice cut in. "Ethan." Our mother, of course. She was halfway to us, her perfect party smile plastered on like she'd rehearsed it. She barely spared Sophia a glance before locking eyes on me. "Make sure your grandmother doesn't say anything embarrassing," she said, her voice light, almost cheerful. "This night is for Sophia." The last few hours had been one thing, the years before that another, but this was the moment something snapped. I stared at her, waiting for some acknowledgement that I was also her child, that this was my night too. Nothing came, just another reminder that I was here to play a role, to ensure things ran smoothly for Sophia while I faded into the background. Sophia shifted beside me, her posture stiff. I don't think she expected that either. Silence stretched between us. I could hear the clinking of glasses, the muffled laughter from the other side of the room, the way my mother was already turning away, expecting me to nod and obey. And maybe, before tonight, I would have. I thought of Grandma, sitting alone at her table, the only person who believed in me, who sold her most valuable possessions to help me get here. And now my mother wanted me to silence her. I exhaled sharply, setting my empty glass down with a little too much force. Sophia was still beside me, watching, waiting to see what I'd do. I didn't say a word. I nodded, downed the rest of my drink, and walked away, straight toward Dr. Caldwell. It was time. Dinner had begun when my father stood, tapping his glass with a fork. The room quieted instantly, every conversation, every whisper dying down as people turned to face him. He beamed, scanning the crowd like a proud king about to bestow honors. "We always knew Sophia would be an exceptional doctor," he said, his voice ringing. "From the moment she was a little girl, it was clear she had a gift. We did everything to support her, to give her the opportunities she deserved. And now, look at her, a brilliant, accomplished young woman, ready to take on the world." The guests erupted into applause, some raising glasses, others nodding in admiration. I sat there, waiting for the inevitable, a half-hearted mention of my graduation, a forced nod in my direction. It never came, not even a passing comment. I felt Sophia shift beside me. For the first time, I think she felt it too, that invisible, undeniable line between us. She knew it was coming, and for once, she didn't seem to like it. The waitstaff moved between tables, refilling glasses, serving the next course. The air smelled of rosemary and butter, the kind of meal that cost more than I made in a week at my old part-time job. Conversation started up, people murmuring about Sophia's bright future, her upcoming residency, how proud my parents must be. Before the applause settled, another voice cut through. "Actually," Dr. Caldwell said, rising to his feet, "we should acknowledge another incredible achievement tonight." Silence fell. My father hesitated, clearly caught off guard. He didn't like being interrupted and wasn't used to losing control of the conversation. Caldwell continued, undeterred. "Ethan Walker has been awarded the Rivers Fellowship, one of the most prestigious honors a young medical researcher can receive. This means full funding for his research, placement in a top-tier hospital, and, perhaps most significantly, complete student loan forgiveness." The words hung like a live wire. I could almost hear the collective intake of breath. The clinking of silverware stopped, glasses hovered, forgotten. For the first time, a room full of people saw me not as Sophia's brother but as someone who'd done something on his own. Sophia turned toward me, eyes slightly widened. Even she hadn't seen this coming. My mother blinked, her curated expression faltering. My father's jaw tightened, his fingers gripping his champagne glass. And then there was Grandma, at the far end of the table, a knowing smile on her face, as if she'd been waiting for this moment all along. The silence stretched, uncomfortable, until someone, Dr. Graham, of all people, began clapping. It was slow at first, then others joined, hesitant but genuine. Sophia exhaled, a small smile at the corner of her lips. She was the first to turn fully toward me, lifting her glass in a silent acknowledgement, a moment just between us. But the night wasn't over. My father set his glass down with too much force, the soft clink breaking the applause. My mother, still wearing her controlled expression, reached for a napkin, dabbing her lips like she needed time to process. Around the room, people were still watching, some curious, some amused, others enjoying the unexpected twist. Then my father spoke. "So, Ethan," he said, voice steady but laced with something I couldn't place, "tell us more about this fellowship." And just like that, all eyes were on me. The night was far from over. The shift was immediate. One moment, the evening revolved around Sophia, my father delivering his rehearsed speech. The next, the spotlight swung to me, and no one knew what to do with it. A few guests were still clapping, but now it was real interest. Conversations about Sophia's future redirected, murmurs rippled through the room. One by one, they came toward me. Dr. Simmons, a professor who barely acknowledged me in class, was suddenly all smiles, clapping a hand on my shoulder like we'd been close. "Ethan, I had no idea you were working on research at that level. What's your focus?" Before I could answer, Dr. Patel joined in. "The Rivers Fellowship is no joke. You must have impressive work. I'd love to hear more." I took a sip of water, stalling. It was surreal. These were people who'd always directed their attention elsewhere, toward students with connections, famous last names, students like Sophia. Now, suddenly, I was worth knowing. In the corner of my eye, I saw Dr. Graham, the man my parents spent the evening trying to impress for Sophia, watching me with clear interest. He wasn't even pretending to pay attention to my sister anymore. His expression looked a lot like curiosity. For the first time, I had their attention, not because of my parents, not because of my last name, but because of me. And my parents? They looked like they'd been hit by a truck. My mother regained composure first, smoothing her dress, forcing a smile as she stepped toward me. "Why didn't you tell us?" I set my glass down and met her gaze, keeping my voice even. "Did you ever ask?" That stopped her. Her lips parted, but she hesitated because we both knew the answer. She hadn't. Neither had my father. They'd been so focused on Sophia's future, so consumed with her success, that they never considered I might have ambitions. My father cleared his throat, stepping in to salvage the moment. "This is a big deal, son. We're proud of you. The words sounded forced, like he was trying them on for the first time. Thanks, I said, not bothering to pretend I believed him. A waiter passed with hors d'oeuvres. I grabbed one without thinking, barely registering what it was, something overpriced and tasteless, a decorative bite meant for appearances, fitting for the night. Sophia stood frozen, still absorbing everything. For once, she wasn't the center of attention, unsure whether to be relieved or annoyed. A few feet away, Dr. Graham spoke. Ethan, I'd love to set up a meeting next week. Your research sounds fascinating. I didn't miss my father's jaw tightening. This was the man they'd spent years trying to impress for Sophia, to fast-track her success. Now he was talking to me. I nodded, keeping my tone neutral. I'd be happy to. My mother opened her mouth, probably to try again, but before she could, I felt a familiar hand wrap around mine. Grandma. She gave a gentle squeeze, her eyes filled with something deep and knowing. I always knew this day would come, she whispered, just loud enough for me to hear. For the first time, I believed it too. 2 weeks later, I stood in my tiny apartment, surrounded by half-packed boxes, the walls bare for the first time in years. The move to New York was happening, the next chapter of my life was waiting, and for the first time, I wasn't carrying someone else's expectations. I had sealed the last box when I heard a knock at the door. I wasn't expecting anyone, but when I opened it, Sophia was there. She hesitated, like she wasn't sure she should be here, then stepped inside, looking at the mess of moving boxes. So it's really happening, she said, not a question, just a statement. I nodded. Yeah, it is. She was quiet, then looked at me. I want to say something before you go. I waited, letting her find the words. Sophia was never at a loss for them, but tonight, she chose them carefully. I know Mom and Dad always gave me more, she admitted. And for a long time, I just accepted it. I never thought about what that meant for you. But standing in that room the other night, watching everything shift, I finally got it. I didn't say anything. I wanted to hear the rest. She exhaled, folding her arms. They did everything for me, and in a way, that made me weaker. I never had to fight for anything, never had to figure things out for myself. You did. She swallowed hard. And you became stronger because of it. It was the first time she'd acknowledged it, the first time she saw me for who I was, not just her brother, the extra, the one who filled space but never took up too much. I don't know what's next for me, she admitted, but I think I need to figure it out on my own. No more shortcuts, no more expectations. Just me. I studied her, then nodded. You'll be fine. She smiled, a real one this time. You too. We didn't hug, didn't make a big dramatic gesture. We weren't those people. But when she left, I knew something had shifted. The competition, the resentment, it was over. We weren't rivals anymore, we were two people walking our own paths, free of the weight we'd carried for so long. The move to New York was a blur of long nights and paperwork. The new apartment was small, expensive, but mine. I barely unpacked before my residency started, throwing me into sleepless nights and impossible cases. It was everything I'd worked for, everything I'd fought for. 5 years later, my name was known in medical circles. People who never looked twice at me in med school now quoted my research, referenced my work in neurosurgery. I had a 6-figure salary, a home in mid-Manhattan, and a life I'd built on my own terms. I woke up every morning in an apartment overlooking Central Park. My wife, brilliant, driven, the kind of person who called me out when I got too lost in work, was still asleep, her hand resting on my arm. The smell of coffee drifted from the kitchen, a reminder I wasn't the only one awake. Life had changed in ways I couldn't have imagined. My parents tried to reach out a few times, awkward phone calls, polite emails, but I had no interest in rewriting history with them. I kept my distance, and they learned to live with it. Sophia and I, though, figured it out. She carved out a career, not as celebrated as mine, but one she was proud of. We saw each other a few times a year, had dinners with our spouses, shared stories about work and life. The past was still there, but it didn't define us anymore. The one person I never stayed away from was Grandma. She was still in the same house, sitting on her porch with a cup of tea whenever I visited. Only now, she didn't have to worry about bills or repairs, I made sure of that. One evening, as I sat with her, watching the sun set over her backyard, she patted my hand. You did it, Ethan, she said. And you did it on your own? I looked at her, then out at the world I'd built. She was right. I didn't need my parents' approval. I never did. And for the first time, I truly understood the freedom that came with knowing that.